Man killing a man based on their color of skin, religion, gender, sexual preference, nationality, opinions. Is this new normal? Has human evolution peaked? And is this an indication of human decline? Is Roman Empire collapsing? Today, we hope to give voice to our pent-up frustration, anger, and hopelessness of the current situation, which had been simmering for decades, but exploded with the death of an insignificant man who changed the world for many. Man gave the voice to millions with his own silence. Let me read a quote. I have often remained silent when events like this occur, not because I wasn't horrified or upset, but because I didn't know what I could say or do to help. These events have taught me that remaining silent is no longer an option. I read an article today that contained a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King that really struck me. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. I'm no longer remaining silent and plan to educate myself on what I can do to be a better ally. This is from a white female who is lifetime Republican. But this is the change of heart that's happening around us. So what do you think is happening in the world? But more importantly to us as humans?
Today, I don't want to stay silent anymore. I never imagined living in a country where the color of your skin got you killed. For driving, jogging, sleeping, opening a door, wearing a hoodie, playing with your child in a park, sleeping, or just eating an ice cream. It's bizarre, unreal, and it hurts. Is it the way we have become as a nation, as a world? Intolerant, hateful, unkind, unfeeling, selfish, and completely quiet. No, I don't want to stay silent anymore. I want to talk about the implicit biases we all have been carrying for way too long. Our indifference to systemic racism, the gray hypocrisy, and owning up to the failures of current society. The world around me today is injured, dysfunctional, and restless for justice. And for the first time at a monumental level, awakened by the murder of a man of color. Enough is enough. In the past, I have been guilty of turning a blind eye myself. Me and most of my South Asian friends telling ourselves, it's not our fight. But Desmond Tutu once said so appropriately, if you are neutral on situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Let's start by speaking up and showing that we care. Black lives matter. It's not a fight, but we can't be silent bystander anymore. It's not a fight, but we can't be silent bystanders anymore. We must act, catch this wave of awareness before it dies down and forgotten like in the past. As a race, we humans are ready for the next step in our evolution. Let's talk.
So let's ask our panel of participants, even though they all have their roots in India, but they have come from varied backgrounds and varied experiences. So let's start with brief intro. Start with Neha Mishra. You want to talk who you are, where you live, what you do, and when you came to the US.
Hi, so I'm Neha Mishra. I am a labor rights attorney living in Washington, D.C. I'm the proud daughter of two Indian immigrants who immigrated to the United States around 1964, and I was born a few years later in Miami, Florida. And so I'm a first generation Indian American.
Great. Sudhir, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. Been here 31 years now. I'm a professional chef, and now I own two restaurants, Indian restaurants, in the just outside DC in Montgomery County, and just trying to make ends meet with all this Corona lockdown and everything that is going on now. Trying to see how the restaurants will work, and just following on the right behind the coronavirus has been this protests and all that. And it has been pretty depressing overall, what all is happening. And first it was that it is the Black community which is getting more affected with the coronavirus. But right now, I don't know where we are going with this. And I'm so glad that Manoj and Chetna picked up this topic today to discuss. And I'm sure I would learn a lot just listening to you folks today.
Thank you. Thank you. Deepti?
Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be on this panel, which is of huge magnitude and such importance. I am an actor and a writer. I immigrated to the US to go to school in 2001, and I'm a recovering scientist and a mom.
Great, great. Yatin?
Hi, I'm Yatin Ragola. I came to the country in 1981. My dad came in 74. I just, followed him. I work in IT. I'm actually glad part of the panel, and I'm here to learn a lot and give my views, what I think about this topic.
Great. Thank you all, and I appreciate you all taking the time out to talk to us. And I feel that this is a time that we needed to talk it out. And so we want to start with Chetna. You want to say something before you want to talk about
Yes,
yourself?
I would actually, as you and I have talked a lot, and I'm sure all of us are in the same boat. Past few days or the whole week has been just very hard for all of us. We have reacted differently. We have felt differently. But what has it taught us as human beings, as part of this nation, is the sheer disappointment that I feel right now with the situation. It was inhuman, but before I talk more about it, I would like to hear maybe from Neha. What do you think? I think you live in DC.
Yes.
So I'm sure you were in the middle of the whole action. So let's talk with you first.
So I live 6 blocks from the White House. So
Wow.
right in the middle of things. And I'm also a mom to a almost 9-year-old. And so trying to navigate, I'm an activist. So trying to navigate in the middle of COVID, wanting to be down there and protesting with staying healthy. And then also how to explain everything that's going on to him has been, really interesting, and highs and lows. Today's a high. I'm feeling really motivated by what I'm seeing and really hopeful for change in this country. I think all of us are feeling really shaken up right now because we saw the video. But one thing that we need to recognize is this not something new, and what the Black Lives Matter community has been saying. We all know George Floyd's name, but how many other names are there before that? And with everybody having a camera and video on their phones now, we're seeing a lot more. But it's definitely something that's been happening forever. And one of the reasons I was really excited, and I have to do full disclosure that Manoj Tiwari is my uncle. But I think it's important to this conversation because I think it's really interesting, because in our family, tend to be the leftist along with my brother, and has made for interesting family dynamics sometimes. But this is not an issue that I think, this particular issue of police violence and race, is not something that we've talked a lot about, I think, in our family. But one thing that I'm hoping we can talk a little bit about tonight is how the Desi community, how the Indian American community has responded. Because a lot of times I think we are put into the category of the model minority, and that's a myth. But I think it provides a lot of cover to people, and I'm hoping that this is going to start shaking up other communities of color, including the Indian or the South Asian community too.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you touched upon some very, very good points. One is that the whole South Asian community, how we react to these things. Also, in the middle of, right after or right in the midst of this COVID crisis, how a child who has been confined in the house, and all this unrest happening outside, right outside his house. So there are a lot of good points you touched upon. Sudhir, your thoughts?
This entire thing that has come up, And every time something like this happens, we are all afire. We are all set on fire. But then suddenly something else comes up, and we are living in this, soundbite kind of a thing nowadays.
Mhm.
I mean, last 8 days now, I haven't seen any news of coronavirus really coming the coverage the way it was, because everything
Yeah.
has been taken over by this thing. And 31 years ago, when I came over here, I thought that America is one of the best countries. It's like a melting pot. And later on, I realized lately, for the last 5 or 10 years, as I'm getting closer and closer to different people, I realized that it's not a melting pot. It's more like a salad bowl where each piece of salad is still retaining its own identity. They are just tossed together. And more importantly, when it comes to this racism as such, I think I was pretty foolish when I came here. I thought there is nothing like that which exists over here. Coming from India, I knew the division was more on the caste lines. When I came over here, I realized that there is nothing like a caste anyway over here, and did not really much feel the racism. Perhaps the level of work where I am at, I did not feel it. It was a pretty guarded kind of a thing. Now it is, I realize lately, seeing what all is happening, that it was always there. It was simmering right below the surface. I was silly enough, stupid enough not to have noticed it. Lately, it has just come out in the open. It has been given enough, this fire has been given enough fuel now to start raging. And this animosity towards and anybody but white people of the white skin is really coming out now. It was always there, I guess. It was always there. It was subdued. People did not think it was politically correct to say anything. It has become politically correct now. Anybody can say anything right now. And just to add to what Chetna quoted just now too, I think I'm very much with it. But it also matters. I mean, if there were four guys with weapons or something trying to assault one person, how is it that I would really go over there and try to fix things? All that would matter is those two, there will be two deaths, me and the other person that they were at.
Yes.
So we have to really come up and devise something whereby everybody jumps in to help.
Mm.
Yep.
That's what I want.
Hey, Deepthi, you are from New York, right? Your perspective might be a little bit different because I know Washington metro area is very diverse, but I think nothing more diverse than New York City, right?
Yes.
And you work in theater and things. So, what you have seen, how you have experienced, and where do you think the South Asian communities stand in your experiences over there?
It's very interesting. That's a very good question, one that I've been asking myself, especially since Tuesday when I went out for the protest. And as I was even going for the protest, a couple of my South Asian friends were like, well, what about the risk? All these riots have been happening. And I said, it's a peaceful protest. Nobody's planning to have a riot or something. And I'll go with a friend, of course. Then it was like with the COVID-19 situation, you're exposing yourself. And I just found myself saying that, yes, I know that I'm taking the risk of going out in COVID-19, but there's a higher risk of raising my child in a world that doesn't care for people who are a little bit different from each other. And that's a risk that's not worth taking, So this risk I'll take because there's a huge risk for not showing up.
Yeah.
When I went there, I didn't see that many Asians at all. Southeast Asians or Asians at all. There were maybe 4 or 5 of us, and there were 2,000 people gathered there. I think there is something to be said about how people are also afraid right now, which is completely understandable because of the coronavirus. But also, I think America in general, this is not just for South Asian community, but we become so busy and occupied with our survival. Think about it. People are working 60 to 80 hours a week, and then the weekends they're doing their laundry and just trying to take care of their, chores. There's no time left for activism. Even as I was protesting, I found myself asking my friend, like, after the protest, then what? When the last gun violence happened, there were protests, we marched, we went out, we had the placards and everything. But then what? The problem is, once the whole cry ceases, then another event has to happen to then make us have that outrage again from the society, because we all get preoccupied in our survival, in our lives. So I think partly that's also impacting South Asians, but I think we are a little bit afraid. We're
Right.
also people of color. And like Sudhir so rightfully said, if there are 4 armed people, you go in there, there'll be 2 dead people. So it has to be a collective, the power is in the fist, not in the fingers. So I think that's a very important thing to recognize, that we have to stand together. And we as a South Asian community have to realize that we are part of this game. I came here in August of 2001, right before 9/11 happened. And I was in Arizona. So yes, now I have the experience of New York, which, by the way, even though is so diverse, there is a lot of racist things that happen there. Like, of the instance of the man with a turban being pushed off on the rail tracks. Those kind of things still happen even in a city like Manhattan. But when I came to Arizona, right after 9/11, what I experienced was so shocking. Just like Sudhir, you said, I didn't realize that this is what I'm coming to. I came from Mumbai and I thought it's just going to be the same world and people are going to be so great and so nice. And they weren't.
Yeah.
They were afraid. I think it's fear. So yeah, I mean, how South Asian community has responded, I think they're not out there. I'm sure they are also outraged by it. Like, look at us, we're talking about it. And this is not something that is going to leave us out either. We know the example of Suresh Bhai Patel from, I think, 2012 or something like that, 2015, I could be
Been
wrong.
5 years now.
Yes, 2015, yes. And that cop was acquitted and he was actually back on duty and everything. So we're not separate. We're also part of this game already. So we need to have a lot more momentum. We need to speak out, but I don't see that just yet.
Yeah. We are almost there, but not there.
We need to be outraged. I
We need to
think
be
that's
outraged.
what the answer is. We need to start feeling the need to stand together, because it's all of us together. In the past, we have just like let it go. Okay, and I don't think so. It's the time, like you mentioned, Deepti. It's not about the time. It's about how much we want to get involved. We just don't.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yatin, I know you've been in the US for a long time. You came in the 80s and things. How things have changed, or what have you seen? How things, has anything changed? Has anything moved in the positive
In
direction?
my view, I don't think so much has changed. Coming from India, I mean, we have seen, like Sudhir say, caste basis, and discrimination is is everywhere.
Right.
Like coming to America, that's one thing I never really thought. I always thought like this thing happened in third world countries. Then you realize, I mean, it's everywhere. It's black, and I mean, one incident might happen tomorrow. A big Indian might be the next one, because 9/11 happened, Muslim were involved, and the wave was like everybody was against it. I mean, like, another thing can happen, and you become that part. The one thing, I guess, even though I've been here almost 39 years, you see it happen, you see it, but it's much bigger issue, to learn why it happened, and what can be done, to stop it. It's like the black community, I mean, you learn, been suppressed from, I mean, get-go, they don't have opportunity to even lift themselves up. And I personally consider like poverty is like the biggest curse, How do you get out of it?
So I have a question. Do you think that it has gotten worse in the times that you have been here, Yatin, or?
To be honest, I mean, I haven't seen the change. It was there. I mean, like we were talking about, every time something happens, the protests happen, people go out there, I mean, like, they gather, they're trying to make a movement. I mean, I can talk about last 3.5 years, there's so many protests happen in DC,
Yeah.
nothing came out of it.
Yeah. And it's more
And
subtle, maybe. I don't know.
I
Is it
mean,
more
That's what I'm
subtle?
talking about, though. Like, protests are great. It's an action, but the
right,
transformation is not happening. Like,
Right.
change is not happening because it's just,
Yeah.
it's an action and then it, all the
Right.
sari hawa nikal jati hai.
right.
so-
Something need to happen, and
Right.
like, I mean, they have to change the laws. I mean, they have to
Mhm.
pass the bills. I mean, because
Right, but-
it's like I say, it's a much bigger problem because the people who are supposed to fix this, they are the culprit.
Right. And that's
They
why I think
will not
Neha can speak to this, where I
Yes.
feel like who is sitting in those chairs, the lawmakers, right? So I remember from Suresh Bhai Patel's case that the jury that basically acquitted him was made of 10 white people and two black women. And 2 black women thought the cop was guilty, but the 10 white jury members thought he was fine. And then the magistrate said that, the man should have had this identification, but the problem wasn't about the identification. The problem was about how the cops treated him, and that just got completely ignored.
Different.
So I want to know, in terms of where the change makers, I mean, you're very right when you said about the poverty, the class, the power is with the money.
Yes.
And where is the money?
Right.
And who is sitting in those chairs? Are those, is there a mixed representation of people of color in the, where the lawmakers are sitting right now, where the judges are? I don't know if maybe Neha is the right person to
Yep.
Yeah, and Neha
answer this
can
question.
talk to also this, like, are we even trying? Do we try to get into those political positions to bring that change? Because when we don't even understand or admit to ourselves there is discrimination because, oh, it didn't happen to me, it happened to that black guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Are we even trying enough to get into those positions?
Yeah, we have like one Kamala Harris maybe. But
Yeah.
We have a few
Neha,
more.
you want to speak to that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much here that we could be talking about, right? But I think the points both Yatendra and Dipti that you brought up is so important, is that this is not, just about what we're seeing on the surface. It's really about structures and institutions that are in place that perpetuate this, right? So it's not even necessarily just a few people running for office, because it's the structures, and that's what's scary. And I think that's what's scary to a lot of middle class or upper class South Asians, because to make change, we're going to have to change the structures and the systems and the institutions, and that's really scary to people because that's a big change, right? And that affects everybody. But that's the only way things are going to change. And Martin Luther King talked about this all the time, that you talk about all these things that are happening, the sexy things for the media and all that, but it's really about economics, as you guys are saying. So much of it, is about economic equality and socioeconomic. And the other point is that it's not just one identity. We all have, there's intersectionality, right? We all have these different identities, and it's class, it's race, it's gender, it's all of that. And we need to be looking at that. And to be honest with you, I think that that scares the South Asian community, because many, in the middle class, upper class South Asian communities don't want to shake that up, because we do have a certain level of comfort. And this is coming from the daughter of a doctor, right? I grew up very privileged, and I get that. But I also had parents who, my father especially, was very into equality and all that, and I think pushed all of us towards that. But I think that's a little bit of the scary thing. And then when we were saying about, what is the South Asian community doing, I do actually think we need to look at different classes of the South Asian community. I just put in the chat, and sorry,
Yes.
I can't for people here, but
I was going to ask you if you can talk about that article that you posted.
Yeah, why not?
There are, there's a group called South Asians in Defense of Black Lives. There are groups out there that are committed, to being in solidarity with, the Black Lives Movement and other things in the United States. But a lot of that comes from the lower wage South Asian community, or the younger activist South Asian community. But basically saying there, we recognize that as South Asians, we can never be fully equal if Black people are not. Right? And that's where this is coming from. And I'm hoping, I'm so excited about this conversation, because I do think a lot of people are doing that self-searching that needs to happen right now. And that's what we're going to see. But the change is going to come from people being able to say, okay, I'm willing to be uncomfortable. I'm willing to understand that we have to really have these deep conversations, how to change our structures and our systems, and address capitalism, which creates this income inequality. And I'm not saying,
Yep.
say that and people
Yeah.
think communism, that's not what I'm saying at all. But the way capitalism is structured right
Right.
now is to create
Or
income inequality and to keep structural racism in place.
yeah.
Capitalism benefits from structural racism.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, and that's something I think we need another 2 hour long discussion on this topic itself, capitalism in itself. But I know that, Sudhir, you are very passionate about this issue of the poverty and all that stuff, the core of the problem. Where do you,
Yeah, I
where do you
mean,
think?
Neha is pretty right when she
Yeah.
says that. And recently, when we had the primaries just a couple of days back, I realized that. And we keep on blaming the system all the time.
Yeah.
Like everybody, all of us, we said at some point or the other just now during this brief half an hour conversation, we have been having that every time there is some kind of violent act takes place somewhere, we take out all these morchas and marches and we go here and there, and then nothing comes out of it. So we are blaming the system. But what we do not do is, in order, if we really want to change the system, you want to get inside the system and
Get
start
involved.
changing up from there.
Yes.
And just now when the primaries were there, I realized that we all get excited about the general election when we have to go elect the president. But do we really know down all the way till the council to the even, school district and all that? Those are the really grassroots important things where each one of us should know. I would not have known who to vote for, to be frank. Joe Biden is already coming in. So other than that, I didn't know anyone at that time. And
that's such an important thing you're raising. Yeah, like education, we're not educated, we're not aware.
Nothing at all, yeah. And then we do get divorce, who also does not know much.
The least educated education secretary.
Yeah. And initially, when the dialogue started, I think Chetna was talking about Southeast Asian community and her friends and all that. To my mind, I think at least the whites are racists, yes, but they are in just a very, very unilateral way. They are racist towards anybody who is non-white.
Yes.
I think Southeast Asians are the worst. They're much worse than them because of the 200 years of the British rule that we had under that yoke. We still carry that. And to the white skin, we look up to them. Racism again. We are looking up to his skin color. And then when we talk to about the blacks, and I mean, we never really say African American or a black or something. We have all these nicknames for them, very, very derogatory. So actually, Southeast Asians have to really dig themselves out. That we are equal to the whites anyway, maybe superior in certain ways, and definitely the blacks are our equal too.
And I think that's exactly what I was saying in my opening statement, that I have been guilty of being racist at some core of mine, because and what happened, like we were talking to some younger kids, like my son and my daughter-in-law and some of their friends yesterday about the same topic. And what I learned from them is, like, they all feel that the people our generation, like our age, the older panelist here, we are all racist, because to some extent we are. We just have these biases that we carry. And after this incident that happened last week, it really shook me to the core. I cried that day. And then I asked myself, have I been racist? And I found that to some extent I was. Initially, when I came to this country, we were so busy, like just settling ourselves down. But when my kids went to school here, they were not struggling, but they were being raised with these children, blacks, white, Latinos, all sorts of people. So they don't see those biases. Our kids don't see those biases. So I think to some extent, the South Asian community needs to wake up. They need to really evaluate.
Yeah, but I will say the younger generation is the hope. Like if you look around.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's a lot.
Definitely.
The thing I wanted to say is, if we're looking for someone to engage on this, and not just Kamala Harris, I would actually say the person that I would really turn to is Pramila Jayapal. She's a representative from Washington State. She's extremely progressive. She was And she's somebody that really, she was born in India, came here later. I think she was 16 years old when she came to the United States. And she's one of the most progressive members of Congress right now, and also a proud Indian American woman speaking out on all of these issues. So I really urge anyone listening to this, or all of us, to just really look to her. She is somebody who is really trying to work on these issues in a lot of ways. But just going back to what somebody else was saying, you think about, like, I just remember when I was little, just hearing about, just how much it was better to be a light-skinned Indian than it was to be a dark-skinned Indian. And just even among that, what is
Yes.
Oh, fair and lovely.
Fair and
Do
lovely.
not know.
Queen, yeah.
Like, fair and lovely. That is where it is. If you're fair, you're lovely. If you're not, then you're not.
But that's part of our, like, I think what Sudhir was saying, that's part of our Indian legacy. And so I'm really, I just really hope that we will all start, to reach out to our African American and Black and Latino and other communities of color, and really start to do, as I was saying earlier, this self-analysis. But we have those role models in the South Asian community. We have Pramila Jayapal. We have the younger generations that are out there. So many others that I think.
And why can't we all be the role models? Why can't we all?
That's exactly what I'm asking. Why don't we wake up?
Because we are asleep. We're like not even dreaming. We're like comatose.